Have you ever wondered why some real estate agents perform at ultra-high levels every single year? Welcome to the Unstoppable Agent Podcast with your host, Richard Fournier. Each week, we interview real estate agents from around the world who are constantly ranked in the top 1% of the real estate industry. My mission, share with you their best strategies so that you can create your own peak results as a real estate agent. It's time to become unstoppable.
Hello and welcome back to this episode of the Unstoppable Agent Podcast. I'm your host, Richard Fournier, and I'm super excited to have a new friend, I hope, a superstar in my belief, and his, I'm sure, but a very unique individual, a unique professional real estate agent, Andy Taylor from Sotheby's in Toronto. Thank you for being on our podcast today.
Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate it, Richard.
So you've been around a while, Andy.
Yeah, no, certainly. I've been in real estate probably since I had a bottle in my mouth. My family were in the real estate industry in the 70s and 80s. Right. I think I tried everything that I could before getting into real estate. I tried advertising and financial services, but ended up back to kind of where my roots were and getting into sales just at the turn of the century.
Just at the turn of the century, right? So listen, I think people need to understand a little bit of who you are. So you're, if not the founder, if not one of the founders of Sotheby's in Toronto. You hold a senior VP position with Sotheby's. And Sotheby's is a unique organization, how they operate. And so, you have family in construction. You've been in the real estate game for a long time. And maybe you could just tell me a little bit about the evolution of bringing Sotheby's into Canada and maybe a little bit about why you, Andy, why have you stood the test of time?
Oh, wow.
So very few agents have last longer than 18 months, 24 months. Let's be honest. So why you? What makes
it's true.
So different?
So I think I'll answer that first is perseverance and just, never taking no for an answer. I have a very good friend, gentleman by the name of Steve Sims, and Steve is remarkable. He has he had a company where he pretty much provided services to high net worth individuals. Whatever they wanted to do, he created. Whether it was having dinner at the Feet of David with Andre Bocelli singing, he just whatever came up to their imagination, he would create. And he always said, to me, what makes me different than anyone else? I don't take no for an answer. I keep going forward and I keep pursuing. I find the solution. And I think that's what real estate is about, is finding a solution that works for your client and the best solution possible. So perseverance, not taking no for an answer, always finding good solutions. I think those are three very important things that have kept me going. When we started, we started Sotheby's in Toronto in 2007. And at that time, we were brand new to the Canadian marketplace. We had offices in Vancouver, Toronto, and Montreal. And it was just four of us. And I came to Sotheby's because I knew it was a great luxury brand. And I wanted to provide something different I grew up in Lawrence Park. I wanted to kind of be the token Sotheby's agent for Lawrence Park. That's how I started kind of the idea. And then I realized that was going to change very quickly. But, Sotheby's is an incredible brand, but there was so much more behind it that we had to learn. So it was constantly, daily kind of figuring out how to use this new brand in real estate in the Toronto market. And it made it exciting. We worked together. And I think that was a big thing. When we started Sotheby's, I remember when I first got into the business and I was with, one of the main brokerages, and I'm a pretty open book. I tell it as it is, and pretty transparent. So I had a great opportunity for a listing presentation in a really one of the top streets of Toronto. and I was in what do they call it? The bullpen, or where all the computers were, the
Sure.
people who didn't have offices.
Right.
The manager was walking by. I said, "Oh, I got this listing presentation at 123 Riverview Street." And she came over. She goes, "Shh, shh, shh, you gotta be quiet. Don't want other people to hear. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, "Huh." So I never understood that mentality. When we started Sotheby's, because we were all new to this brand, and we worked together, the four of us, on any pitches that we had. How do we leverage the Sotheby's? And I found that when we worked together, the product, the ideas, and the marketing that we did was incredible. So, as Sotheby's grew, we always tried to keep that collaborative essence in the brokerage. And, obviously things grow and you get bigger and bigger and bigger. It becomes a little bit harder, but still, I will say that collaborating and working together with your colleagues, whether, the great thing about Sotheby's, whether it's here in Toronto, your part, Sotheby's colleagues in another part of Ontario, another part of the country, another part of the world. Collaboration is a big part of what Sotheby's is about. And I find that very unique among the brokerage industry.
Got it.
So,
and you yourself, when you look at your, you lasted through, 2008, 2009, right? But we didn't have that much of a hiccup here in Canada. We had about a 6-month window of pain. And then they gave away free money and gave away houses, right? 10% cash back and 40% AMRs, and what you qualify, right? It's a different world.
yeah.
But if you look at your day-to-day method of operation, I know a lot of the majority of our listeners are agents, right? I'd say 99% are agents, and they're top agents from around the world. And they're always wondering, what is someone's daily method of operation? Now, you've been around a long time, so it may slightly differ for a new agent, but to me, it's just, even if you're a new agent, you're just scaling what you do in a different way. But what do you do every single day to create new business for yourself and for your family?
So, I think I'm a little old school. Technology is definitely not my friend. I find that a lot of the agents that I see coming into the business, and on the younger side, I'll say in age,
yeah, like me,
are really
young like me, right?
Oh, like us, absolutely, yeah.
Because we're about the same age.
Are really tied to texting and messaging and emails. I find the best form of communication is just talking with people. I know you can hit many more people, quicker when you text and email. I know it's part of the ninja selling. It's all part of all these sales coaches is, have your 10 people to call every day. I never really got it formalized. I just naturally call people. I love talking with people. I think that's been one of the greatest parts of my success is, for me, just hearing what people are up to, reaching out, not really having business in mind, but just being curious to my clients and what are they doing? What's going on in their business? I think the other big thing that has been very successful for me is, I don't think of my business when I talk to someone. I think of their business. How can I help my client grow their business? And so everyone says I'm, a huge connector. I love connecting people. I find it's something I've met a lot of people in my career, whether, it was from advertising to financial services to real estate. And, I'm always thinking, oh, could Bob help, John, let me connect the two of them. That makes me feel good. And I'll tell you, it's a great way of developing new connections, new opportunities, and just, the business comes. And so I make lots of calls.
Is it fair to say that, I mean, do you directly, because when I was with Scotia, right, this was, a conversation around like the old, we go to the club, or I go to this place where I know people who are my target audience are meeting, they're socializing, they have conversations. And of course, when I got started back in the day, we didn't have the ability to generate leads online or those things, but it was really deep level conversations, in-person meetings, all the time, the time. And today I find, COVID has changed some things, but in terms of video communication, you and I are doing that today. But I find that my best connections, like the very best, is when I get an opportunity to sit in front of someone or shake a hand or talk on the phone. That's when I know the relationship is up leveled.
Yeah.
Right. And so do you really look out every day and say, what, I am going to reach out to these many people, not with maybe the intent of, hey, buying and selling a piece of property today. Right. But maybe it's an intent on, hey, you know what I do, but connecting in some way or some fashion. And I think this is where agents struggle, is what do I say? Because it's all about them. Right.
I think it's, and the biggest thing you say is, how are you doing? What's going on? You don't have to worry about talking about real estate. I think, out of every 10 conversations that I have, and I'll try to stay away from real estate always comes up. They ask me about what's going on in the real estate market during the good, the bad, and the ugly. They're always curious. I find that there's a professor of mine at university in marketing, and we were talking about touching customers, and he brought up in Toronto we have the Gardner, we have these big flower planted logos of large multinational companies planted on the side of the highway where everybody drives by and can see. And he said, they spend millions of dollars on these planted logos so that when the people are driving along the highway going to the baseball game, to the Blue Jays, they're capturing their attention. And he said, if I could find 5 of my potential customers and sit down with a hot dog and beer and talk with them for 5 minutes, I'd much rather do that than spend the millions of dollars, on that logo. And that always touched me. That's always been, no matter what business I've had, that's been the core, is, spending time with customers. I think an important thing is to understand that, yes, we get busy. But I think that sometimes people feel that their time is overvaluable. Like just, sitting and meeting people, you never know what's going to come. And I think that's the greatest thing, is you can talk with someone and then 4 months later, they call you up and said, oh, my friend Jane is looking to find a new property. Could you talk with her? So it's not going to come today. It might not come this week, but it usually does come. And it's not being afraid of waiting for that opportunity. Like, plant the seed today and let it grow down the road. I spend a lot of time with clients. When I'm not generating revenue with them. But I know just from 20 years that it might not come today, it might not come this week, but it will come this year, next year. And I'm not spending money on marketing, especially right now. It's important to really watch your budgets. What are you spending money on? How effective is it? A cup of coffee and an hour of your time is a pretty cheap form of developing a new potential client, versus, spending thousands of dollars on a mailing into a market where there's 100 other agents doing the exact same thing.
100%.
So,
Bob said to me, so what am I meant? A guy I worked with a long time, you may know him, Bob Proctor, from the hit movie The Secret, the old, lovely guy, passed away last year, God bless his soul. But he said to me always, he said, Rich, there's something called the law of gestation, or the law of how long does something last? He said, one thing for sure is that whatever you plant today, you will receive eventually. You just don't know when. So keep planting as much as you possibly can, Rich, because you don't know when, but you have to know for sure it will.
Yeah. And that's
so if
true.
I plant today, and by the time 6 months, I'm still planting, I'm receiving what I planted 6 months ago, but you will never receive unless you start planting and giving and leaving everyone with the impression of increase, right? Which is an idea to be better just because they met you.
Yep.
And that's something
Absolutely.
that's sorely lacking in our industry. right?
Oh, I think you couldn't have put it better right there. Like that, I'm going to steal that from you, actually, if you
Please.
don't mind.
No, I stole it from Bob, and there is no original thought.
Yeah.
Right, we always steal from other people.
No, yeah. No, I agree with you. So that's been a big part of my success. It takes a lot of time, and listen, you always have, I think the other thing, I always kind of look at what I've done and examine what have the things been successful, what are things that I've done that, you know, I probably need to change, whether it's with my business, whether it's with myself. I think the one thing, balance is something that, especially when you start, and for me, who just I need to find that. I'll work as hard as I can until I get that success. When I was starting, I was working 7 days a week,
Okay, can we
14
go
hours
there?
a day.
Do you mind if
Oh
we go
yeah.
there for a sec? Because I think that there is this this attraction marketing, and there's push pull marketing and everything that you call. But the truth is, most agents aren't working. Back in the day, because I know we came from the financial services arena. I remember from our past conversation. And so I'll go back to a book that I had read, who was one of the lead coaches for the financial advisor world back in the day. And this guy said the average financial advisor works an hour to an hour and a half a day. But what he meant was, what he was implying was that they work an hour to an hour and a half a day prospecting. I still meet the majority of agents I speak with. They don't prospect an hour a day. They don't reach new relationships every single day. I don't know what they're doing, but nothing's happening unless you're developing a relationship. So tell me, please tell us, what was it like for you to get started, daily method of operation, and what kind of energy did you have to bring to this game to get started?
So I think one of the things I did know is I wanted to learn. I'd had enough tough knocks in different careers to know that you want to surround yourself with successful people in whatever you do. So I decided I was going to work for a very successful agent in Toronto and just learn. I wanted to make some money, but my focus was to kind of learn what is she doing to be so successful. And so I did every open house I could. So Saturdays, Sundays, I did agent open houses. I did all the showing. So I really I think working for someone who was successful was a big part of me just absorbing.
Got it.
And then I think it was just, again, following up with people, with open houses. I developed through testing and whatnot, a great follow-up email and then a call, just not, again, email's great. Again, old school, I always wanted to speak with them because then I could hear, their tone and what were their hesitations and, how could I, am I giving the right information, and so that's what I did. Any opportunity I could get in front of new people. Excuse me. Then when we started Sotheby's, I realized that Sotheby's had some very incredible branding. It was synonymous with luxury, synonymous with a higher net worth clientele. We deal with everybody, and I deal with children of clients who are just getting into their first rental property, and it's fun watching them go from their rental property to that first small condo to their next stage in their real estate career. And over 20 years now I'm seeing them in a kind of the rest of their life home. That's a fun part. I think that's the other key to success is my clients become my friends. Like, it's very rare when I don't become very good friends with most of my clients. And as long as they stay in the area, I've got clients now in Hong Kong, in India, in Europe. So we stay in touch. And then in Toronto, I get in touch. I connect with a lot of our clients on a regular basis. Jody, my partner, she talks about being a therapist and just that person for people to talk to. on a daily basis. I know it's important to her. That's why we became good partners, is because we had that same philosophy. But I digress. And so other things that I did too is I think, again, on that getting together with people. I looked at, again, successful agents. And I remember this one agent, and I was talking to about this when we first started Sotheby's. And I was talking with one of my colleagues, and I said, Jimmy, he's always out. Every day we were out, I see him at a restaurant having lunch. And so I'm talking with him, and he's like, yeah, I go and have lunch with clients every day, and have a coffee in the morning. So that's, again, reinforced what I already believed, and I knew I had to do more of, was connecting with clients and finding ways to add value to them. And sometimes, giving them information on the local real estate market, that certainly adds value. But in that time, they're not looking to sell, they're not looking to acquire a new property, they're not looking to rent. So how else can I add value and make their time with me something that they leave gaining some information or gaining something.
Right. And
so
do you like when you look at the it sounds like to me you're, just correct me if I'm wrong, Andy, like you're very focused on deep relationships.
Yeah.
Like your day now, it seems to me that your day to day is not spent acquiring leads online and converting those leads right through, and which is 100% opposite of me. 100% of my business in north of Toronto came from online leads.
Yeah. Isn't
that interesting, right? Like, so it seems like so this is where I'm sorry to just to interject.
No,
here.
go ahead.
It seems to me that whatever way you want to do business in the real estate space works. If you believe it and you work it.
Oh, I think you're 100%, because there is so many different ways to grow a business, whether it's real estate or financial services or the mortgage. You just have to have something that becomes routine every day. And, it's what you do naturally. Like you don't have to even think about it. It's, and everybody's different. The other reason that makes Jody and I very good partners, she loves the actual day-to-day execution. She is the best agent when it comes to understanding the market in all segments of the market, but she works with a lot of our clients kind of, up to 5 million. And she knows the product. She thoroughly enjoys taking people through. She is great at seeing what makes them tick when they look at those properties and adjusting her search. She is a far better agent in the execution than I could ever be. What I love is building the business and, finding new opportunities, looking at clients and saying, okay, what are opportunities that we can provide to a client that may not be there. I love off-market opportunities. I love talking with agents. What do you have? That's the type of thing. I'm the person that just goes out talking with agents, collaborating with agents. And that's the other thing. I think that's a very important thing to talk about is working with other agents. I think something that's made us very successful, and it was my uncle who taught me this a long time ago, is to respect other agents and treat them as if you treat your own team member. When you work together with an agent, it's when you have actual value and when you're providing value to your clients with information, market knowledge, negotiating skills, that you work with you realize that working with other agents helps the transaction happen. I find that when I'm getting an agent who wants to be confrontational with me, they really don't have the information or the understanding of the transaction or the market. And so they feel that fighting for their client is the way that they provide value to their client. And I'll tell you, any of the top agents that I work with, I don't think we ever get in a disagreement. This is what my client is looking at, and this is their position. That's what your client. Let's find a way to get the deal done. And it's always cordial. It's always, hey, listen, I really appreciate your help on this transaction, is the end comment versus, and so I think that to me is another big success. If you want to be successful in this industry, you respect your other agents. The good, and you've got to also have that understanding that some are new to the business and they might not know something. So be understanding of that. Help them out.
That's what you want the deal to get together some way, somehow. And is it fair to say like the last, like if you look at 2015 to 2000, just COVID and the insanity around low inventory, real estate was religion in Canada. Everyone, it really was like, you couldn't go wrong with investing in real estate. And it became so difficult. The relationships didn't matter with the other agents at that time because you're like, I remember being on a deal with 72 offers. Relationship didn't matter. It was like highest price, no conditions, wins the deal, fastest close, like let's get it done. And so that was a difficult market to play in. But now that we're in a market where people actually have to qualify, people are hesitant, consumer sentiment is low. I remember the people who treated me poorly during the insanity in the real estate market. And I also remember the people who treated me really well. And so those relationships go really far. We just were looking for an off-market deal, just to real quickly. And we did a deal with this lady about 3 years ago, just shy of 4 million on the lake here in Lake Simcoe. And I reached out to her and said, I have a discerning buyer who's looking for up to 12 million. And I'm looking for off-market stuff. Does not want to look at anything on market, private. And because of the relationship with her and I had a very difficult deal in the past where she trusted me, number one. She goes, you're not going to waste my time. We were cordial together. We appreciate it. We worked the deal. It took us a long time to get it together. And because of that relationship, she opened up a door recently to me that was her door, wasn't my door, and allowed us an opportunity to further conversation. And if we hadn't been nice to each other, there was no way that would have happened at that level. You know what I mean? So that's case in point to what you're saying.
Absolutely. Right? Relationships are important, not just with clients, but with other agents and colleagues. Again, it's that collaboration, so I think that would be another very important thing that I find when I look at top agents out there. Right. They all, for the most part, have that same philosophy.
Right. And when you look at, like, if you were to give, say, I'm new to the business, Andy, it's me, I'm starting today. And this, I say
you have to get a better haircut,
I do, right? I'm hiding the gray. I just shave it down to the skin.
Oh, come on now.
And so
you're doing better than I am.
And if you were to give me a piece of advice, you got 20 years in the game, high-end real estate, you've worked all walks of life. I mean, I see some of your lease listings are in, $25,000-$30,000 lease listings per month. Huge listings. But if you were to say, Rich,
just got one of those done last night.
Oh, you did? Wow. There you go. Right. So if you were to say, Rich, this is how I want you to operate in today's market, in today's environment, looking at what because your relationships go all around the US, all around the world. You talk to the top agents out there today who are performing at very high levels. What would you tell me to do today?
Wow.
It's not a fair question.
No, there's so much to do.
But if you were to sit down today and say to your son or daughter, this is what I want you to do today.
You know what? It's it's hard to put it down. There's a couple of things. One is know your market intimately. Have the information that when you talk to someone, they can tell that the market. Right. And I think it's only by knowing the market that you can be on the biggest thing. And I just recently was watching something and I can't remember what it was, but so it's about being yourself, you know, and I know this is becoming cliche, but it is being authentic. Um, and that comes around a lot of the things I've been talking about is, not really worrying about your business, focusing on other people, not being focused on yourself.
Mhm.
Um, for me, it's I'm always curious about what other people are doing. And Jody kills me on this. I think I I love helping others more than I love helping myself.
Got it.
And she tries to rein me back, but to me, that's why that gives,
Gives you joy.
I'm sure a few therapists would have a few things to say to me about that.
No,
But
but if it
I,
gives
I
you
enjoy I
joy,
enjoy that.
right? If it
I
gives you joy, then I think most of us in the industry, if I watch out there today, we try to be something we're not, and we try to do what other people tell us to do. But there's some things that, that are proven. Like there's some base things to do, right? We know video first in today's society is really, really important. But if you suck on video, you have two choices: either be really good at video or don't do it. Like get better or don't do it. Like it's not difficult. But if you really love the conversation, you really love serving people, and you really want to give to them, it comes across. You can't fake that.
No.
Right?
And so being real about yourself is so important, just in life. But that's what I tell my son, what to be successful in this business, because people see it. People want to know that you, again, know the market intimately,
Right.
and are being the way that you are. The other thing is, we're a little bit repetitive. It's just reaching out and talking to people. Um, Again,
Every day.
I know
Every
I
day.
know that some people focus on the technology, and that works. I'm not saying, but even with that, I think it's important to connect with people, in the local market.
So you know what? So just on a side note right there, while you're thinking about that. So the truth was, like all the beginning relationships online were just the beginning. They were just the entry point. I still had to have conversations and meet in person. Like
Yeah.
it just didn't magically happen. Well, I generate all this. No. I still had to pick up the phone a billion times. I had to send video messages a billion times to get attention. And then I had to finally have the conversations, and I had to meet in person. So they were just entry points, but I still had to have the conversation daily around developing relationships and adding value in those things. That like what you're saying is like build your CRM, put people in there so you know when to call them, because you can't organize your life most of the time unless you know who you're talking to every day. So just call people and I'll talk to them about whatever it is, but you can always ask them is really what you're saying, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the only other thing that I haven't talked about is, when we started Sotheby's, and just I'd say in general, is, finding centers of influence that you connect with. With Sotheby's, there's a lot of brands that, traditional real estate brand would not elevate in terms of luxury and that sort of thing. Where Sotheby's was, there was very few brands in the world that were and more uh, uh, synonymous with luxury than Sotheby's, and what it does truly sell. So we really reached out to those other centers of influence that also focused around high net worth individuals, and tried to use our brand to elevate what their offerings were. Again, it wasn't just about brand; it was about being there for providing global information on the real estate market. What are things that we have access to that no other brand in the Canadian Toronto and Canadian real estate market had access to. And we had great partners, as you said, throughout the US, throughout Europe. So when someone was asking about a certain market, we had people that we could call and get that information for them. So, we worked with centers of influence, building those centers of influence, and again, making them look good and ensure that the experience was best in class for them and their clients, and whoever they might be dealing with.
It sounds like you really have taken on an advisory role, which is
completely.
I think your value prop beyond like that.
So this is what and this is what essentially I learned from my partner Nikki in New York, and Mara, who
Mara Flashbaum, she was on our.
Oh yes,
yeah,
absolutely. So we've essentially, I was talking with Nikki, and she said, Andy, I know you've been in the financial services market or industry. What we are actually portfolio managers of our clients' residential real estate assets.
Right.
And so that's really how I've kind of transformed what we kind of defined ourselves as, is a portfolio manager, that advisor for clients' portfolios of residential real estate, whether that's within the Toronto and Ontario market, whether it's within Canada or globally. So portfolio manager, that's kind of how we are kind of looking at our business a little bit differently.
I think it's a beautiful value proposition, and it's something that I believe, it doesn't matter what I believe, but I think it's something that should be absolutely shouted from the rooftops, and not transactional nature, but a portfolio manager of their residential and investment property assets. And I think that's a brilliant way to view it. As always, the mind can only take what the butt can handle in the car. And so I just want to quickly summarize, and if I'm incorrect in some things, is that relationships is number one. Number two, reach out to people every single day. Maybe not about buying or selling a piece of property, but how can I add value to my people today? Like my family, right? These are my family. This is my book of business. How can I connect people? And how can those people add value to my clients? Create centers of influence that have the same value proposition as I do, and the same morals, ethics, and values. And that's what I'm getting from you. I think that summarizes it really well.
You have done a very good job taking notes, because that's exactly, and I know it's the crazy thing is it seems repetitive, because it really is for me, what I would say has been the success of our team and our business is relationships, being an advisor, always providing good information and insightful information, and being there for our clients, not just when there's a transaction. We're there for clients more when there's no transaction than when there is.
Right. That's what I've noticed as well, that I when I do talk to people, it's not about real estate.
No.
Right.
So
if anyone wants to get in touch with you from around the world today, you are located in Sotheby's, Toronto. What's the best way to get in contact with you?
Email, I guess. Call me. You'll find my number on the Sotheby's website. Yeah. My email address is Andy Taylor, very simple, at sotheby'srealty.ca. But call me. I'd love to talk with anyone. And again, I love helping other agents come up with good ideas. And so anything I can do to help, I'm here.
Well, I look forward to connecting with you in person, Andy. I really appreciate your time. My impression of you is a true professional. You really care about your clients, and you really care about the industry, and you're a class act. So thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Thank you for the opportunity, Rich. Appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to today's show. If you like what you've heard and you're interested in creating a quantum leap in your real estate business, here's what I want you to do next. Head over to www.theunstoppableagentprogram.com and book an appointment to speak with our team. We'll get on a Zoom call with you for about 30 minutes and get you crystal clear on 3 things. Number 1, what do you really want out of your life and your business? Number 2, what is not working for you today? And number 3, the exact mindset strategy you should be using to create massive change in these areas. Remember, creating massive, consistent results in your real estate business does not happen by itself. You need expert guidance to make it happen. We're helping clients all over the world create peak results in their real estate business. To see if we can help you do the same, head over to www.theunstoppableagentprogram.com. We'll chat soon.